it's a marathon, not a uh, sprint.
Mm.
So we're in it for the long run. We're thinking about making that impact in the long run, for a bit in order to make a big scale impact. Because we both understand that if you want to make a big impact in the world, it's not going to be overnight. And so that's kind of what I would say. Just be ready to be in it for the long haul.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of the Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that has grown several businesses into 7 and 8 figure companies, as well as a founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. And today we have another great guest on the podcast, Chris or Christopher Cardenas. Is that right?
Yeah, Cardenas.
Cardenas, close.
You're good.
So Chris is always been very or pretty entrepreneur in his own words, and he graduated with a bachelor's in psychology, I believe, and now is has a and also has a master's or is working on master's in instructional psychology and technology. Is that right?
Yep, just graduated in April 2020.
Awesome. So just graduated and then loves using online resources and learning about that way as well. And so kind of looking to, as he's looking to combine resources and knowledge and work with friends in that, done some, or working on with some iOS and app developers and graduated and doing computer science and working with Microsoft and doing UX design and then entered a business competition, took, I think it was fourth place and decided to make some more user friendly apps, and that kind of led to a side hustle that's hoping to turn into a full time gig. So, with that much is hopefully a decent introduction. Welcome on the
Yeah,
podcast, Chris.
thank you so much, Devin. I appreciate that.
So I just give maybe a very quick run through, but let's go back in time a bit and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so basically, my friend and I, my friend Robbie, and I have been very entrepreneurial ever since we met, which was probably about 5 years ago now, probably 6 years ago. And um, he and I had always been, ideating different things we could do and, and whatnot, and, how we can make a difference and make an impact in the business realm, and make a living off of it.
Mm.
So, and he's um, very into that as well because he came from South America to here, and he's just a very go-getter type of personality. And that's one of the reasons why I like him as my friend because he motivates me to be more go-getter. And anyway, so um, let me see here. So I had graduated with psychology, like you mentioned,
Mm.
and in my bachelor's program, and then in my master's, recently graduated with instructional psychology and technology, which is basically a fancy way to say curriculum development. So
Mm.
um, we do a lot of things like customer profiling, creating courses, particularly online courses, um, so
So let's
that
dive into one question for us. So you got, mentioned always your entrepreneur, you got your psychology and then instructional psychology and technology. Now, and you're working now with your friend to do some development and doing it, kind of the side hustle with UX design and whatnot. Now, when you were going through, how did you guys connect up, or how did you guys decide to start to work on things, or how was that? Was it, hey, we were both chatting about our love for or psychology, and that was where it started, or did one of you guys have an idea for a business, or was it kind of just on a napkin and started to work on it, or how did you kind of meet up and start to get to going? Kind of is that prelude to where you guys are at?
yeah. So in my master's program, I really fell in love with the idea of user experience and kind of like user design, particularly for through technology as a medium. And
Mm,
so, since my friend Robbie was studying app development, we were like, hey, why don't we enter into this app competition at BYU, right? And
mm,
so BYU is the school that we were going to,
mm.
and there
Yeah,
were
I
20.
know exactly. That's my alma mater as well. So that's where I
Oh,
did my
nice,
undergraduate. So
awesome, yeah, go Cougars, right?
that's right. So go ahead.
So um, we were entered into the competition, and everyone only really participates in one team. in the competition. There were like 40 to start out who signed up and
Mm,
22 at the competition.
mm,
But and so I had used my user experience kind of background from my master's program, and he was using his and app development experience from his computer science program. Um, and we combined to do this one app, which we called Temple Journal. Basically, it's for members of the LDS faith to be able to journal their temple experiences as they go to the temple.
mm,
And the part of the app competition was that it had to be a good business idea, not just like a cool app people could download.
mm.
And so we were thinking about ways we could do that. And so we entered the competition. Out of 22, we got fourth place, and we're like, wow, we should really do something with this, you know? And so we got a little bit of prize money and we decided to start Unagi Lab.
So you won the comp or you took fourth in the competition, but it kind of gave you that inspiration. So, how did you a little bit or filling in those gaps a little bit from how did you go from winning the competition, decided, hey, we're going to start this as a business or as a kind of a side hustle and with something we want to focus on. How did you make that? How did you make that transition, or how did you or form the business, or kind of fill in a little bit of that gap?
Yeah, so since it was pretty seamless because it had been a gradual progression for a long time since we've always been talking about like either our own entrepreneurial ideas or like stuff we could probably do together. And
Mm,
so once we did this competition, we had already been talking about if this is successful, maybe this could be our thing, right? And
mm,
so once we got fourth place, then we were like, okay, let's do this, you know, and that's
mm.
when we made the official decision, really. And Robbie,
So, sorry, one more question just to fill in
yep,
on that. So you say,
uh-huh.
let's do this, but was how did you decide what this was, right? So you have a successful competition. You said, hey, we made a cool app. People, it was success, or did well in the competition. It was fun to work together. But how did you say, how did you decide? Okay, now what is this, or what are we going to work on?
Um, I guess it's because once we, you know, I guess we had both always been looking for like a window, right? A window of
Mm,
opportunity. And so this was that window. And he had something that also made it easy was that he um, had been working on some uh, app development projects already throughout his computer science experience
mm,
in his program. So he was like, "Hey, Chris, why don't we just continue to do this? And then, as we start to service clients and start to get up and running, we could even do our own ideas, right?
mm.
And stuff like that." So, does that kind of help answer the question? Just fill in the
Sure.
gaps?
Yeah. No, I just was curious because sometimes it's easy to say, "Hey, we did this, and then we jumped over to this." But a lot of that, how do you land on? You find people you like to work with. You have projects, that were successful or fun in the past, and then how do you say, kind of take that next step or figure out how you want to join forces or what you want to focus your time and attention on. So that was kind of what I was diving in. I think that answers the question. So was just curious. So go ahead with your journey.
Yeah. So, basically, after that, we were like, okay. So we were really excited, started to ideate a lot of things, and man, has it been one rough ride since then, right?
Mm,
So, we're like, okay, so in order to find clients, we're looking into, okay, what had you and your friends been doing in order to get your clients and um, in your program, and how can we kind of launch this and like, get started up in
mm,
outside of school. So since then, we've done a lot of things from cold contacting to you know reaching out to friends and people we know, and now we're just kind of in the grind of getting clients, and just kind of continuing to build and grow.
mm. No, and that makes sense. So so as you're looking at and said, okay, we figured out. Now, remind me, you touched on lightly, kind of what maybe for the audience, what is that business, or what are you guys working on, trying to bring clients on and grow? Is it
Right.
app development and making user friendly apps, or is it a bit more of SEO, or is it a bit more of both, or kind of what do you guys focus on, and what is that kind of going forward that you're trying or working to get clients on?
Yeah, so when we were looking into our competition, right, other, bigger names in Utah and more established companies, we were thinking, how can we provide value to the mobile app development space, particularly because mobile app development is pretty saturated, right?
Mm,
I mean, there's people's phones are already saturated just with apps enough, right? And so this is people may think, it's pretty late to get into the mobile app development business, right?
Mm,
So we were thinking to ourselves, what can we do in order to stand out, right? And
mhm,
so we looked into our competition and we downloaded their apps onto our phones and we kind of like looked through their experience. We just happened to kind of feel, you know what, this kind of feels like a little bit of an older design, or it doesn't feel, and newer apps too, right? It
mm,
kind of feels like, I feel like we could have made this better by doing this, putting positioning it this way, emphasizing this more and whatnot. And we're like, we were surprised actually that these bigger established mobile app development companies were not, you know, didn't meet our expectations in terms of like what we thought how we would have done it, right? And so we
mm.
were thinking, why don't we make these awesome apps with like such a cool, sleek design and a great user experience, making the purpose of the app really obvious so that the customer can or the user of the app can interact with the app in a seamless way. And then
Mm.
if we can get our clients to see that, and see that value, then that will help them realize and rave about our service. And that's how we're hoping to provide value in the app development space.
No, I mean, that makes complete sense. So now as you're kind of have that mind, you've kind of defined um the business and kind of what you guys want to dive into and where you're headed next. Looking at the next 6 to 12 months, you touched on it a little bit, briefly, as far as lining up clients, working to get their business on and develop the business. Kind of where do you see the next 6 to 12 months going for you guys?
So definitely just continuing a lot of reaching out to businesses and entrepreneurs because we want to focus more on entrepreneurs since that's been more of the clientele that we've been servicing recently and that has been showing more potential. Meeting with us and um, the couple clients we've started with just in this past year, and so we want to focus on entrepreneurs who have this awesome idea that we can make a reality. You know, and they're like, I really want to go all in with this, and that gives us fuel because we're like, we want to make this awesome experience, and with a bigger company, we could still do that as well. However, it doesn't have that same kind of like inventive kind of drive to it, and so since
Mm.
it's already been our clientele to start off with, we're figuring, okay, let's just kind of dive right into this niche market, and then obviously expand after that.
Okay, no, makes perfect sense. So, well, now as we get towards the end of the podcast, or to start to gone through your journey, always have two questions I ask towards the end. So we'll jump to those now. So the first question I always ask is: so along the journey, and you guys are still in and are taking. What's been the worst business decision you ever made, and what did you learn from it?
So, in thinking about this question,
Mm,
I think the worst would be probably just focusing on one, um, what's it called? Like not diversifying enough in terms of, looking for clients. For
mm,
example, when I was first doing it, I was like, just kind of, we had seen a little bit of potential in some small to medium sized businesses in Utah restaurants, right? And so we were like, I was just like diving all in restaurants, right? Maybe this restaurant or that restaurant, and this and that. And then I realized, wait a second, I keep on going to the food industry, but
mm,
that may not be the best thing to do, right?
mm,
Particularly because the food industry is not as uh, well prepared for a lot of small to medium sized businesses are not really well prepared in terms of finances for a mobile app. However, and so I was like, we should look into into diversifying our search as well, and so started to go into a lot of different industries, real estate, uh, medical, dentistry, things like that, and so.
mm,
Um, we're starting to see a little bit of success in terms of like small loan companies,
mm,
and so we're kind of like going into those like small to medium sized business for loans. And then on top of that, I was only thinking I didn't even diversify enough in terms of ways to for clients to find us, right? I was just going into me reaching out to all these different clients, which is probably how the first 1,000 clients are going to come. But
mm,
then also, doing SEO, right? I was like, I completely put SEO on the side, and I should have been doing that in addition to this, like, cold contacting. And so
Mm.
just not diversifying enough in terms of uh, reaching out to different types of clients as well as allowing clients to find us.
Okay. No, it makes sense. And that one's always it's a hard balance as a startup in the sense that you diversify too much. If you're trying to be everything to everybody, you're nothing to nobody, right? And as the old saying goes,
Right.
because your message becomes too muddled, nobody knows what you're actually good at or what you actually do. And yet by the same point, if you don't cast a wide enough net, if you niche down too much to the point that yes, we have a niche, but it's so narrow that there's only 5 customers that we could ever land, and 4 of them are already employing somebody else, then it makes it hard. So it is always kind of that, how broad do you go? How many, what verticals do you chase after, or what industries do you go at? And then how do you tackle that? So I think that certainly makes sense what you're saying. So now as we jump to the second question, which is if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or small business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
Definitely, it's a marathon, not a uh, sprint.
Mm,
So, um, we're in it for the long run. We're thinking about making that impact in the long run, for a bit in order to make a big scale impact. Because we both understand that if you want to make a big impact in the world, it's not going to be overnight. And so that's kind of what I would say. Just be ready to
mm.
be in it for the long haul.
No, and I think that's good advice. And I think it's one where everybody knows that in theory, but in reality, it's always, you always watch the shows or you read the books and it feels like, hey, everybody else is an overnight success and they made millions of dollars and it wasn't much work. And, they got that viral video or they just happen to have the right advertising or whatever it is. And in
Mhm.
reality, 99% of the businesses are that marathon where you're just going to have to say, hey, we're going to build something, we're going to put in the effort, we're going to put in the time, and it's going to be worthwhile, but it's not just going to be a simple turnaround or a quick fix or a quick, get rich quick scheme. And so I think to that point, being ready for doing that as a marathon and being ready to invest the time and effort needed is one that differentiates people that are startups and small businesses successful from those that don't make it anywhere. Well, as
Exactly.
people want to now check out your services, they want to connect up with you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an investor, they want to be a employee, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to connect up with you?
So my personal email is just chris@unagilab.org. So CHRIS at unagilab.org. Or they could contact us on our website, unagilab.org.
All right. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, find out more, and appreciate you coming on the podcast. Now, for all of you that are listeners, if you have your own journey to tell and you want to come or apply to be a guest on the podcast, just go to inventiveguest.com and apply to be on. If you're a listener, also make sure to click subscribe so you hear all of our new awesome episodes, as well as leave us a review so that we can make sure that the podcast gets shared with everybody else. And last but not least, if you ever need help with your patents or trademarks, feel free to reach out to us at Miller IP Law. Just go to strategymeeting.com, and we're always here to help. Thank you again, Chris. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun to have you on, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Likewise.